McElroy, Cubelic in the morning on Jocks 94.5. Final hour here as we start to move into some of these matchups. We'll, of course, start with Alabama and Indiana. Talked a little big picture there in the last segment of the last hour. But now it's time to dive into the bones of the actual matchup itself. But before we do, I'm going to tell you about my friends at Bill Smith Buick GMC. They're the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They have won that award 5 years in a row, and I fully expect them to win it again in 26. They're incredible, man. It starts with the deals. 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, that's $15,000 off the sticker price. You're paying nearly $68,000 here locally. If you just take a short drive, you can save $15,000. I'll sign up for that savings any day of the week. That's $52,700 is what you'll pay for that GMC Sierra. That's the SLT, the 4x4, 1500, really, really nice trim level. Just a beautiful vehicle, and one that I know you guys will absolutely very much appreciate. So go and take the short drive up to Coleman. Go see Andy Cole. Go see Jonathan Yeager. See him before the end of the year. They can probably even knock off a little more on some of those vehicles too if you go by the end of the year. So go and take a peek. Take the short drive up to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. Or you could shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick GMC.com. All right, we mentioned a second ago, just looked up the forecast for Alabama and Indiana. It will be a little wet. It's looking like 97% chance of precipitation. They're saying about half an inch, which to me is not outrageously significant. Granted, I'd like for it to be dry, given how Alabama runs their offense. But it also says that most of those showers will be happening early in the morning. Heavy rain in the morning, followed by a couple of showers in the afternoon. And then you look at the nighttime forecast, real feel of about 51 degrees with zero rain. Nor is there any precipitation in the forecast at night. So here's hoping that afternoon will be nice. I'm confident in it. I could care less, frankly, if it does rain. As long as the wind doesn't blow, we'll be good. And as of this moment, it's looking like 7-mile-an-hour winds, which will have no impact whatsoever on how it affects the ball. All right, now that we've done some weather, by the way, every quarterback, and most quarterbacks will try to pretend like they don't care. Every quarterback cares about wind. Every single one of us. We are all psychos. We are all looking at the wind in the days before a game and the day of the game. We are meteorologists and should be, because it has a huge impact on how we throw the football. I could care less about rain, like I said, Say-Bear. But when you look at the wind, that's the beast. And all you got to do is go watch Texas A&M Miami and tell me exactly how that thing looked.
You saw those kicks just flying, starting in one direction and went off dramatically in the other. So, yeah, wind. I feel like, especially now with the way as grippy as some of those gloves are, and I think you can definitely play in wind, as you play in rain. In wind, that's something you cannot control.
Nope. Wind's a beast. And the tough thing is when it's changing directions. Honestly, that's my biggest problem, is changing directions. If it's consistent in one direction, I can make adjustments. It's no different than on a golf course. All of y'all that have put a tee in the ground at some point, if the wind is steady blowing right to left, then you just aim on the right side of the green. Let the wind just push it in there just a little bit and hope you don't hook it. You know, if you have this type of game, if the wind's blowing left to right, you hit a little cut and you let that wind knock it down right in the middle of the green. Right? Wind's blowing left to right, you hit a little draw, let the wind knock it down from left to right. That's, of course, for a righty. I'm not worried about you lefties that stand on the wrong side of the ball. All right, and that includes my second son, James Gray, who is a lefty. But beside the point. So looking at it, like, wind has a factor, but don't worry too much about it. Let's talk about what I think will determine this game. The big key to me, let's start with Alabama's offense. You have to be somewhat committed to trying to run the football. I'm not saying you have to be elite. 50 to 80 yards is all I want. That's all I need. I can live with that. I know sack yards gets taken out. I'm talking true, authentic ball carrier yardage. So Daniel Hill, Jam Miller, whoever else might get a touch in this game, I need 50 to 80 yards from the running backs by themselves. And if that's Ty Simpson on a design quarterback run, by all means, who cares? Do it. Shoot it. No problem. So, starts there. I need 50 to 80 yards on the ground. I need, in this game, to have my man beaters up. And when I say man beaters, all the routes that are very effective beating man-to-man. So shallow crossing routes, slow pick plays, finding a matchup with a tight end, finding a matchup with a running back. These are all man beater concepts. Another thing that beats man, bunches, stacks, creating traffic, creating confusion for the defense. All those things will be very, very valuable. So the man beaters will start and be the priority early in this ball game. Number 3, I really need my interior offensive linemen to play well. Really well, guard to guard. We've talked so much about the center, or about the tackles this year, guys. In this game, yes, tackles matter. Yes, they matter. But the biggest problems that Indiana presents to me are interior pressure. Pushing the pocket, making the pocket uncomfortable, having leakage through the interior of the pocket. That's where I, as a quarterback, want to go and die, is when there's interior leakage. Guard to guard, they have to be elite in this game. And if that requires help from the tackle, by all means, whatever you got to do. You protect this game, inside out. Some teams are edge pressure teams. Some teams want to bring it off the edge. Miami, for example, is an edge pressure team. I am not worried about edge pressure against Indiana as much as I'm worried about internal pressure. So inside out with your blocking schemes, got to be very, very sound guard to guard. The next thing I got to worry about, got to make sure you avoid negative yardage plays, sacks, catastrophics, things like that. Negative yardage plays in this game are very, very dicey because their pressure packages are exotic and they will tee off on you if you get behind the stick. So staying on schedule is very important. And then on the outside, guys, I need my guys to step up and make some plays. As simple as that. If I sat there in front of the team room, and I would imagine if I'm Ty Simpson on New Year's Eve, the last thing I want my team to hear from me when I get ready, we're finishing up the offensive staff meeting room, offensive team meeting. I'm getting up there. I'm giving a heartfelt conversation about, boys, this is why we came here. And tomorrow, I'm going to give you my best. I will do whatever I have to do to win this football game. And I remember having this conversation with my teammates before the game in Pasadena myself. I said, I have broken ribs, boys, but I promise you I will die on that field before I come out of that game. And that's the message that Ty Simpson needs to emphasize. But he also needs to go the extra mile and challenge the receivers and say, boys, we're going to see a lot of man today. And there's going to be times where you're covered, but I need you to win. There's going to be times where it feels like I can't throw you the ball, but I'm going to because I trust you. There's going to be times when I'm going to throw it before you get out of your break. So get your head around and get hands on the football because the coverage will be tight, the throws will be quick, and I'm going to have to get it out before this pass rush gets home. I'm going to try my best for my offensive line to keep them upright and keep them safe, but I'm going to have to beat the pressure from time to time. I believe I can do it as long as y'all win. I know you can do it. That's the message. So if you go and you make that message to the wideouts, they're going to understand it. Point of emphasis, you're good. Good with our depths, good with our timing, good with our execution. And hey, when I throw it up there, that ball's yours. Isaiah, when I throw a jump ball in the back of the end zone, you got 7 inches height advantage over the guy that might be covering you. Go and get it. Simple as that. That's the message. That's the offensive plan for the Tide going into this game. Now, on the defensive side, much more interesting plan, frankly. In the simplest way possible, here's what we're saying. Guys, we got to stop the run. Number one, APB, stop the run. This Indiana outfit is one of the best in college football when it comes to creating conflict. And when I say conflict, it means They are going to put us in really disadvantaged situations on a play-by-play basis. It's going to be tough. They're going to have the right look and the right call many, many times in this game. But guess what I'm going to do? Guess what the right call is always against an RPO? Man coverage. You boys on the outside have been clamoring for it. You got it. I'm going to dial up a lot of man for y'all today. I'm going to dial it up. And that way, we can focus our interior of the defense, D-line, linebackers, and company. I can focus that group on stopping the run. Because that's where it starts with Indiana. This team has a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and they run the ball on 55% of their offensive snaps. It starts by stopping the run. And in order to do that, I need y'all to play man on the backside. Secondly, we got to be able to create pressure. Fernando Mendoza, like all quarterbacks, becomes much more human when pressure gets applied. If you make him move in the pocket, if you make him drift in the pocket, if you have some games and some stunts and some movement things up front and get him to kind of get off his spot, he's going to become a little less lethal on those downfield throws. He's excellent on the downfield throws, guys. Like, it might be 3rd and 2 and he'll rip a post 55 yards downfield. He doesn't care. I mean, he is a great football player. I love watching him play. He's a lot of fun. If you haven't watched him, you're going to enjoy watching him. He might be on the opposition, but you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, all right, this dude's legit. You know, I mean, we've all been there, right? Even when the team that you're playing against and this team is like moving the ball and it's driving you crazy, at the end of the game, you usually tip your caps. Like, all right, that guy over there is pretty dang good. Well, I think you're going to have a comparable takeaway if he plays his game on Thursday. He's a really good football player. But these wide receivers have not seen the length and the coverage ability that Alabama has at 4 different places. That's going to be my message if I'm Kane Womack. They have not seen guys that can cover like y'all. That would be my message. Now, is that true? Maybe not. Because I think Ohio State can cover. I can promise you that. Those guys can go. And there was enough separation in that Ohio State game to fit balls in downfield that are not normally completed against the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes don't give up big plays. Well, the windows were just big enough for Mendoza to get them in. So that, I think, is very, very important. You got to get pressure, and the coverage must be great on the outside. The next all-points bulletin about Indiana. They throw the back shoulder fade very well. Their wide receivers on the outside, they have 3 of them. Omar Cooper will live some of the time in the slot. He's a really good player, by the way. Really good, shifty, great yards after catch. Does just an awesome job. But their guys on the outside, they're not burners. You have Charlie Becker on one side. You got Elijah Surratt on the other. They're not burners, but they're excellent when it comes to playing the ball in the air. These guys do a great job of flipping their hips late. They do a great job of timing high points. You need to go up and have great eyes and fundamentals because they're going to throw a couple jump balls in this game on back shoulders, and they're very difficult to defend. And they're going to win some. But when it's a slightly off-target throw and the ball's not perfectly placed, the defender can get hands on him. I think Dijon Lee's got to be big in this game. I think it's a game where a veteran like Damani Jackson is very valuable. I think if you can get hands on the football, like we've seen from Xavier Brown a few times this year, that's enormous. Create some turnovers. It'd be big. Take the ball off them. It's been big. They haven't played in 4 weeks, guys. Think they've been doing full tackle in practice? Or do you think we can punch the ball out a couple times on these guys? That'd be a huge point of emphasis as well. And then last message to the defense, if I'm Kane Womack, I'd say do your job today. This offense thrives on getting defenders to do too much. Play your responsibility. Don't worry about what the guy next to you is doing. Trust that he will be doing his job, just like you need to be doing yours. Because what this offense does, guys, in many ways, it's very comparable to triple option, where it is assignment football. Far more than most offenses that you see in the NFL, which is really more matchup based. This is scheme based. And it requires you to be very, very sound with your eyes, with your technique, and with how you fit the run and how you defend the pass. So do your job, do your responsibility. Don't improvise. Don't try to do too much. Just stick with the plan. And they're going to win some, guys. It's the number one team in the country for a reason. They're legit. They're really good. They're going to win some. But we're going to win some too. And then finally, as I'm Kalen DeBoer and I'm addressing the team, boys, here's what we got to do today. One, we're the hunter. This is to both sides. Offense and defense. We are the hunter. Everyone has counted us out. Everyone has said, we're not good enough. We shouldn't be here. People had issues with us being included in the playoff to begin with. Well, we quieted some of the naysayers after the performance in Norman. But we expected to win that game. Now a lot of people don't expect us to win this game. We have nothing to lose. Nothing. All we have is an opportunity. That's all we want is an opportunity. An opportunity to get in the ring with the number one ranked team in the country and throw a punch. Give me that championship opportunity. Give me that title fight. Because I'll take that chance every single day. I'll walk into that ring and I will throw more haymakers. I might wear myself out, but I can promise you I will throw more haymakers than the opposition. They're playing to defend. We're playing to go and take it. That's the message. We got to take care of the football. Indiana's plus 17 in the turnover margin. Do not beat ourselves. Play smart, play disciplined, play sound, great technique, great fundamentals. 5 points of pressure on the ball for the ball carriers. Defense, punch it out as best you can. Be smart with your eyes. Got to be great in special teams. Guys, we can't shank punts. We cannot shank punts against this group. We got to nail our field goals. When we get into field goal range, we got to drop them. We got to hit those things. All three phases going to require every single guy wearing crimson and white in this game to win this game. But I believe in our guys. I believe we can do it. But it starts by removing any hesitation, any doubt. That's where it starts. And if you can go out there and play that way, I have full faith you guys will be playing a week from Friday in Atlanta. That's my message. So you just heard the offensive coordinator's message, the defense coordinator's message, and the head coach's message in 20 minutes. Hopefully they can be a little bit more succinct than that. But still, that's what it's going to take to get the job done. Should be fun. Can't wait to watch it. We'll continue to break it down. And we will continue to break down the other quarterfinal matchups. But before we do, I want to tell you quickly about my friends at Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's CrockerMovingServices.com. That's CrockerMovingServices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move. When we come back, break down a couple other games, including the Georgia Bulldogs and the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll do it next on Mac and Cube. Welcome back, McElroy, Cubelic in the morning, Jocks 94.5. Appreciate all of y'all that have been weighing in. Enjoyed that last segment. I always like kind of putting the coach's headset on and just talking to the players about what's the point of emphasis. What do you need to do? What's it going to take? Hopefully, it allows some of y'all that played back in the day. Whether I don't care if it's peewee, middle school, high school, college, pro, doesn't matter. The message doesn't change that much. From level to level, it doesn't change that much. It's always the same. And that's what's beautiful about it, man. It's a beautiful game and doesn't change. The same thing wins that always wins. And I think Bear Bryant reminds us of that with tremendous regularity if you frequent Bryant-Denny Stadium. I want to tell you, my friends at Shannara Flooring, Fu and his guys continue to stockpile tremendous inventory. 50,000 square feet of CoreTech flooring by Shaw in stock. It's premium CoreTech flooring. That is beautiful flooring. It's very durable, dependable, 20 mil wear layer. It's built to last, and they also are pricing it right now to move. And no one in town has the CoreTech that Fu has. So with savings of 20 to 40%, it's a deal you just can't touch. So remember Shannara Flooring. When you want CoreTech, call who? Call Fu at Shannara Flooring, 205-518-6423. Or you can go online at fuandyou.com. Saber, I believe we got some texts and some tweets and things coming into the show.
We do. Dylan said this message for the players is too long, Greg. Well, the sentiment got across. You know, we are a radio show, and
we did three different meetings in 18 minutes. Yeah. I feel like that's fairly efficient.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe was he expecting this message to be like a text message, like an email? Like, okay, like if that's the case, okay, maybe it was a bit long for that. But I feel like the message also got across. That's online. You know, not everything is Twitter. Come on now.
TikTok, 90 seconds or less.
This one text asks, why, Greg? Why does Alabama have to run the ball? Don't you think there's a correlation between when all the media people and all the football experts started preaching that Alabama needs to run the ball, all of a sudden their offense went completely dormant?
But by the way, at what point did it go dormant? Like it didn't play well against Georgia. Like I like that whole. They had 400 plus yards against Oklahoma in the first matchup. Dormant. Like where did that come from? Okay, were there some ineptitudes on display against Georgia? Yeah, they didn't play well. Like, yeah, okay, it happens. It's Georgia, guys. They're pretty dang good. Like, it happens, but doesn't mean that the offense was embarrassingly pathetic. Like LSU's a really good defense too. They scored against them. They were able to move the ball against them with some consistency. And I think the reason why you have to stay at least somewhat committed to the run against quality defensive line personnel, if they are not respecting the run, when you are playing defensive line, and I haven't played it since I was in the 7th grade, so it's been a minute. And even in 7th grade, I was one of the bigger kids in 7th grade, and then everyone else hit puberty, and I became one of the smaller kids in the 8th grade. So I went from defensive end, quarterback / defensive end, to quarterback / safety. Typical transition. I get it. But that's the transition I made. I haven't played D-line in 20 years, 24 years. But I remember this. You stop the run, and then you convert to pass. So the defensive line will start by stopping the run, and they'll convert to pass. Some teams take the other approach. They stop the run and route to the passer. Indiana's kind of that way. But if you force the defense just to hesitate ever so slightly because of the threat of handing the ball off, it can help your offensive line out tremendously. That's why you have to stay somewhat committed to it. If you get way too one-dimensional and it becomes an obvious pass every time the ball is snapped, they can tee off. And then the offensive line's really in a tough spot. So what next, Taber?
Cleaning up this one text. Yes, the rain seems like it would hurt Alabama, but would Indiana being off for a month hurt them more because of a lack of game conditioning?
Well, here's the other thing about this rain. I'm looking at the afternoon now, like hourly weather, which is available for the next 48 hours. the rain's going to be out of there by 11 a.m. or noon at the latest. So it'll be a wet track for sure, but it should not be precipitation that will impact the grip on the football. And Alabama, as well resourced as it is, Indiana as well, with Mark Cuban's money, they are going to be just fine, assuming they can get a new ball in every few plays. Wipe the ball down, dry it off, new ball. Wipe the ball down, dry it off, new ball. Like, you keep rolling. When you're playing golf in mud, you don't play 18 holes with a mud ball. Like, you clean it off, you move on to the next hole. You get lift clean in place, clean it off, down, hit it again. Same thing in football, in college football game. It puts a heavy emphasis on the managers and who are the unsung heroes of the operation, and making sure that the right ball is in, the dry ball is in, and it shouldn't have a huge impact on your offense. It shouldn't, assuming you can play the game with more than 2 footballs. So feel pretty good about that, and I wouldn't worry too much about it, especially based on what it's looking like with the hourlies. It's going to be a morning rain more so than an afternoon.
A couple of more. We have Michael who texts in and says, after Greg's message, I'm ready to run through a wall. And this other text says, I don't know what the last guy was talking about. Greg trying to motivate his players was great radio. I disagree. I thought you were putting on the coach's headset and trying to motivate not only the rooms but the whole team, and it kind of got me going. I'm ready to play now too. I hadn't played since Hoover Raiders when I was I think 8 years old, but I think I can get a couple snaps in.
It wasn't Barry at that point?
No, well, it wasn't. It was club. It was rec league. So yeah. And
you guys weren't the Bucks? What the heck?
That were the Raiders. No, of course not. No.
Where's the school pride? Those are competing pirates. Those are competing pirates, and here you are. Unbelievable.
Barry won good like that, so they went after winners. So I guess they chose the Raiders, which makes a lot of
the Raiders
sense.
Back then were pretty sporty. That's fair. I get it.
And Conrad's oft-lover Faye texts in, what does Indiana have that Bama doesn't? Are they more tested than us?
I think they have fewer vulnerabilities. They're just a more balanced outfit. And that's okay. Like, here's the thing that's amazing to me. I don't want to keep going back to golf today, but when I look, let's go baseball here. All right. Alabama has a great fastball. Their fastball is great. It's got late tail. It moves. That's their passing attack. It's really good. It's dynamic, and it's hard for guys to catch up with it. Alabama's curveball hangs from time to time. And if they throw their curveball, it can get hit out of the yard from time to time. Now, there's some days when the curveball is actually decent. Like, I thought the run game was pretty good against Oklahoma. I know the numbers won't reflect that, but the way they had a couple runs that were impactful, they kept them honest a little bit. They caught them off guard with some pin and pull stuff a little bit. Like, there was a couple things that were good there in that game, kind of promising in that game. Indiana is a little bit like Greg Maddux, where maybe his fastball is not super elite. It's not. But guess what? Like, he's got 5 pitches that are all pretty dang good. So Alabama might be, the equivalent of a Aroldis Chapman, who can just throw it 102. And if you can catch up with it, great, but you probably can't. But that's kind of what he's got. That's kind of his pitch. That's what he's got. That's what he's going with. Indiana is Greg Maddux and can beat you with 5 different pitches. And they have a lot of pathways to victory. And they have a lot of ability. And they have very few weaknesses. They're going to hit their spots. They're going to play methodical. They're going to make good decisions. They're going to prep the game. Like, they're going to be really, really solid. They're really well coached. So that's the comparison there. And by the way, it's you can win a lot of games with 1 pitch. A lot. I'd rather have 5 pitches, but having 1 dominant pitch, perfectly fine by me. And in going back and really studying the quarterbacks for Get Up, I went back last night and had to put together some game tapes for the quarterbacks. And I think what's been a little bit lost as I reflected back and watched 75, 80 throws from Fernando Mendoza, watched 75, 80 throws of Dante Moore, 75, 80 throws of Ty Simpson. I don't think y'all realize how good Ty Simpson's been this year. Now, I know that people kind of forget that from time to time. Y'all, he has thrown some seeds this year. I mean, it is. I'm just telling you, when the NFL scouts start to evaluate these guys and they're looking at those three tapes back to back to back, everyone sits there and says, oh, yeah, it's Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza, and then there's a gap, and then there's Ty. I'm telling you that gap is much tighter than you realize when you actually look at the throws that he's pulled off this year. It's pretty dang sporty. And I think he can play great in this game. I fully expect him to. He's back healthy. He's had some time off. Hopefully he's been able to kind of reset, recharge, and hopefully the performance of last game out will carry over. Because I would argue one of the best games of his season was coming off a bye. That was the bye game between Georgia and Wisconsin. He played great in the Wisconsin game and carried over a lot of that momentum into the performance against Georgia, and he was lights out in the first half. So I think he's going to have to win the game. I think he can. I have a lot of faith in him, and I think the Bama faithful should have comparable faith as well. All right, when we come back, moving on to Georgia and Ole Miss. Haven't hit that one as much. It also involves two SEC teams. We'll tell you how we think it's going to go next on Mac and Q. Welcome back, McElroy, Cubelic in the morning on Jock 94.5. It's going to be freezing here the next couple days. Don't mess around. Make sure you have Polar Bear services on speed dial. I know they'll probably be at my house. Let's be real. Here in the next day or two, for whatever reason, our heater freezes up sometimes. And right now, you do not want your heater going on the fritz. That's the last thing you want to deal with. You want to make sure your system is ready to roll. You want to make sure that everything is in good shape. You know that the heat is going to be working overtime as temperatures will dip into the 20s most nights this week. So make sure your system's ready with a call and a tune-up from Polar Bear Services. They can also do repair. They can do new installation, any of your home comfort system needs, and they can also help you with electrical work, plumbing, whole home generators. So you're not in a bind when the power goes out. Like, I've been using Polar Bear Services at my house for years, and I know you can trust them. I've used them, like I said, multiple times a year for several years. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR. We have a lot still to get to, and we haven't really hit on Georgia and Ole Miss. And not only is that, to me, one of the more intriguing matchups of this quarterfinal round, but it's a rematch of a game that took place 6-7 weeks ago, whenever it was. 8 weeks ago, who knows? Who cares? October. All right. But Ole Miss was in control of that football game. And they scored on their first 5 possessions. They ran their typical tempo, and it really wore themselves down. Like, they quite literally punched themselves out, if we're using a boxing analogy. It's kind of what happened. As a result, Georgia had a 15-minute edge in time of possession. 15 minutes, guys. That is astronomical in a college football game. And while we point to, well, time of possession is not as important as it once was, I don't disagree with that. But when you don't have the depth that you once had on defense, like no team does, by the way, even the best teams in the country are playing methodical ball control offense, like Ohio State, Georgia. These teams have the most talent, and yet they still are trying to protect their defense week in and week out. Well, Ole Miss didn't do that the last time. As a result, they had 4 defensive linemen that played 60-plus snaps. They had a linebacker that played 80-plus snaps. They were completely worn down in the fourth quarter, and it led to them getting outscored 17-zip in the final frame and surrendering what was a 9-point lead and turning that into an 8-point victory for the Dogs. So the big question in this game for Ole Miss's offense is, how will they adjust their own tempo to better complement their defense? We all know about Trinidad Chambliss. We know how good he's been. He's really a point guard of this passing attack. Great distribution. He'll spread the ball to 7, 8, 9 different targets. He does a great job of getting everyone involved. And I think the offensive line has done a pretty adequate job this year of handling some of the physical body blows that great D lines will employ. So I think this offense is much better suited to continue to take the fight to them, but they have to be mindful of how many snaps their defense is playing, especially with now Pete Golding as the head coach and the defensive coordinator wearing both hats. I would anticipate a much more complimentary approach. And is that in their best interest? Because that kind of abandons what they've been up to this point of the season. On the other side, for Georgia, they are the model of efficiency. I absolutely love watching this offense. They are so efficient. They're so good in the red zone. It all starts by running the football. They're excellent when it comes to utilizing different personnels. They love using their multiple tight ends. They have really quality depth at running back. You even see fullback used. You see under center. It's a really, really fun offense to watch. It's a bit of a throwback with some new school principles, like quarterback run game, and Gunnar Stockton thrives in the quarterback run game. Their entire offense with the run game kind of centers around Zachariah Branch. He is their Swiss Army knife. He is the guy that they want to get it to on third down. He's the guy that they want to get it to in short passing situations in the screen game. Get him touches, get him volume. And I would imagine him having a very heavy workload in a game like this because there are areas of Ole Miss's defense where you can exploit. First area is a lack of tremendous depth. The second area might be the secondary. Now, they're a little healthier in the back end than they've been. They're playing a little better in the back end than they have. But it'll be interesting to see how do they handle Zachariah Branch. They double Zachariah Branch, leaving them on one-on-ones potentially on the outside against what might be a returning Colby Young, who's been out since the Ole Miss game when he got hurt on like the third play of the game when he fractured his leg on a flea flicker. So it's going to be very interesting to see the cat and mouse game here. Two very different styles, two very different approaches. One team wants to tempo you. The other team wants to grind you down. What wins out? And then last year, if you look back at Georgia's performance in the Sugar Bowl, they played against Notre Dame. I called the game. And what hurt them in that game was self-inflicted mistakes. They turned the ball over at the end of half. They had a critical drop on a downfield throw. They just had some missed opportunities that they left on the table. And I don't know if that was the product of rust and being off for 4 weeks. I'm not sure what to attribute that to, but they did not play like the same outfit in last year's Sugar Bowl than they did in every other postseason game that I can recall watching them in the last 10 years under Kirby Smart. Just they don't make mistakes. And in that game, they did. Will they again in this game? Ole Miss had a tremendous tune-up against Tulane. Had real live tackle football that was played 12 days ago. Well, will the sharpness of having played in that game give them a slight advantage? And that's something that can be utilized in all these matchups, by the way. Recall, every team that had a bye last year lost. Now, a little different this year with how the seeding has worked out. The third-ranked team and the fourth-seeded team, the third-seeded team and the fourth-seeded team last year were not as talented as the third and fourth-seeded teams this year. But there's still a 4-week layoff when the other teams, 5, 6, 9, and 10, all got to play 12 days ago. So we'll see. We'll see how that materializes, whether it matters, whether it doesn't matter. And we will come back here in a moment and make some picks in these matchups. Before I do, though, I want to tell you about Canty Foundation Specialist. They're the local experts in foundation repair, crawl space, basement, concrete solutions. Look, here in Alabama, there's a million different factors that can lead to foundation problems in your home. It's the soil, shifting, uneven ground, moisture, weather, lots, including just the age of your home. So if you're noticing gaps between the crown moldings, baseboards, around windows and doors, if you're noticing standing water around the foundation or in your basement, if you're noticing chimneys or porches pulling away from your home, that might be an indicator that you need to get Canty Foundation Specialists out to give you a free inspection and estimates so homeowners know exactly what's going on under their house. Their work is backed by lifetime transferable warranty. So call Canty today at 205-509-3991, or you can go online to Canty, C-A-N-T-E-Y, Can Fix It. That's Canty, CanFixIt.com. All right, when we come back, we'll make some picks in the games. We'll do it next on Mac and Cube. All right, final segment of the year for me on Mac and Cube in the morning. You guys will be here tomorrow. I'll be listening tomorrow in between Ole Miss coaches meetings that start at 7:45.
Whew.
Bright and early, no big deal. I'll be ready to roll. I've had this game done for about a week. I mean, I couldn't be more excited about calling the Sugar Bowl. This will be my 5th Sugar Bowl. Very, very lucky and grateful and never take it for granted to be able to call games like this on stages like this, involving teams like this, and to tell these players' stories. It's just the coolest thing ever. Can't wait for it, that's for sure. It's going to be awesome. Also look forward to watching all the other games. Cotton Bowl, that's still the one that eludes me. I have not called the Cotton Bowl in my hometown, which is very disappointing. I was supposed to call it in 2020. Got COVID. Sucks. But it is what it is. So I haven't called the Cotton Bowl yet, but look forward to that at some point. But I've been very fortunate to have called all the rest. The Sugar Bowl to me is as good as it gets. Absolutely love New Orleans, love the environment, and can't wait to be back there in the Dome on Thursday evening. And I'll be sitting in the booth for 4 hours prior to us going on the air. Probably more stressed about that game than I will be the game that I'm going to be calling, which always freaking happens. Drives me nuts.
Oh.
Like, it happened a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to call my first playoff game. I'd never called a playoff game before. Had just gotten elevated to the number 2 crew that year. And I'm sitting there watching Bama and Michigan in overtime, freaking out before. I'm way more worried about Bama, Michigan than I am about Texas, Washington. Is that bad? Maybe I just have too much Bama in me. Is that what you're saying?
And then had to turn around and call the game. Like, game ends in overtime, heartbreaker, seemingly a busted play, just didn't look all that great, and just, all right, well, here we go. Let's call the game.
Well, I've been on the other side of that too, though. Like, I called Georgia Tech immediately after the 4th and 31. So I've been on both sides of it, where I've watched it and gone onto the air in elation, and I've watched it and had to go onto the air in tremendous disappointment. Like, when I'm calling the game involving Alabama, it doesn't bother me that bad. It's just 2 teams. Like, everyone's always like, is it hard to call Alabama? I guess, like, no, they're just another team in that setting. But when I am not required to be professional, I am still, just like all the rest of you, yelling at the TV, wanting what's best for my team. So it's remarkably difficult to compartmentalize joy or disappointment based on the outcome of the game, and then having to put that to the side and immediately prepare for an audience that might have 20 million people. It's a hard thing to do. But it never leaves you. Like, I remember sitting there in 2015 on the national championship field after we won against Clemson, and Joe Tessitore immediately looks at me like, you were just grinning ear to ear, buddy. What's going on? I'm like, it just never leaves you. Like, it's your team. It's the greatest thing in the world. And like on ESPN and on other platforms, like, you'll never see that. It's not my job to be that way. There are some guys that can get away with that. Not me, unfortunately. But it's going to be agonizing. It's going to be great. And I can't wait to grind with the rest of y'all. I'll just be doing it on a TV screen, in a booth as I prepare for Ole Miss and Georgia. If the game gets dicey, I might just have to go to the field and not watch it. That's going to be what has to happen, I think. But
yeah, just text me. I'll text you what happens. Hey, final score is this.
Yeah, no, please don't. I really don't want to know. If we're in the lead, I'll stay up there. If we're behind, I'll be on the field. But I digress. All right, let's make some picks. Say Bear, where are you going? Give me 4 winners.
All right, of the 4 CFP games, I think Oregon wins it. I think they win kind of convincingly. I know Texas Tech is a bit of an unknown, but I think Oregon, after last year and after having lost to Indiana, I think everything was built towards this part of the year right now, and I think Oregon gets it. I think Indiana beats Alabama. I think it's going to be close and kind of back and forth game, but I think ultimately Indiana either gets a drive like Penn State and gets the win, or stops a drive like Alabama. I think Alabama will be close. I don't even know if they might even be the better team, but I just think Indiana has shown that they can be gritty enough to put past what Alabama's putting out. I think Georgia wins easily. I just in a spot like this, I just really trust Kirby, and I know, especially after last year, he's not going to let that happen again, being off a month. And I know it was a first-time starter, but I just don't think that will happen again to him. And the other one, that's gosh, I'm torn on that one.
Buckeyes or Canes? Simple.
I know. I think Ohio State gets it. I do think Miami's
Love
playing insanely well, but I think Ohio State ultimately gets it.
All right, I'm going Ohio State close in the first game. I think it's going to be really tight. I think eventually Ohio State will wear down Miami. I just don't know if Miami's going to be able to manufacture enough offense. That's the big question for me. In the second game, I'm taking Texas Tech over Oregon. I think Texas Tech can disrupt the front. I think they can get pressure on Dante Moore. I think they can force a couple mistakes. I will not pick the Sugar Bowl. And if you think I would ever pick anyone other than Alabama on this program, you are high as a kite. The Tide all day. I think they're going to, I really think they're going to play great. I think it's going to require near perfection, but that's what you want. That's what you crave. That's what you desire. So on this program, on others, I've taken Indiana, I will admit. On this one, though, I really believe, and look, maybe it's through crimson color glasses. I don't hate the matchup at all. I love the psychology of the team, and I love going in there with nothing to lose. So I think they're going to play really, really well, and I really believe they can get it done. I absolutely do. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be incredible. 4 incredible quarterfinal matchups. We've got a lot of great games today as well, so dial in. Just a few college football games left. Have a wonderful new year. Be safe, and we'll see you in 2026.